Richest pastor. Imagine preaching about humility and spiritual consecration while owning 4 private jets. That's David Oyedepo, the Nigerian pastor worth $200 million, who turned faith into a Fortune 500 business model. In 1981, Oyedepo claims God appeared to him in a vision and told him to start a church. Fast forward to today, and Winners Chapel spans 60 countries with over 300 branches. His headquarters? Faith Tabernacle, the world's largest church auditorium, seating 50,000 people. It's not a church, it's a stadium with a cross. Now here's where we start asking questions. Oyedepo runs multiple universities in Nigeria claiming they're for the people, but critics point out these schools are debt traps for ordinary families while elite connections get preferential treatment. His very own Covenant University is the most expensive private college in Nigeria. He's also known for his prosperity gospel, the idea that tithing brings wealth. The irony, his followers give their last pennies hoping for blessings, while he flies between continents in luxury jets he calls divine investments. The man doesn't take criticism lightly either. When Nigerian journalists investigated his church's finances, Oyedepo allegedly prayed for fire from heaven to strike them down. He's been accused of cursing critics with madness. Nothing says spiritual leadership like threatening divine retribution on anyone asking questions. But despite thousands of prayers and sowing sacrificial seeds to his ministry, Nigeria, and therefore most of his members, still remains a struggling third-world country, even though he insists only prayers can revive the country's dying economy. His backstory is compelling, though. Orphaned young, raised by a Muslim father and Christian mother, he built an empire from a shack in Kaduna. It's the ultimate rags to riches story, which makes the betrayal sting harder for those who believed in him. Oyedepo proves that in the business of salvation, overhead costs apparently include private aviation. Richest Muslim. Everyone believes faith and money never go together, but Africa's richest man just told you to hold his beer. Aliko Dangote is worth $30.5 billion, making him Africa's richest person and the wealthiest Muslim on the continent. He built his empire on cement, sugar, and flour. Riveting stuff. But somehow he turned bags of powder into a fortune that could buy several small countries. Dangote controls 90% of Nigeria's cement market. When you have a monopoly that strong, you don't just set prices, you are the price. Critics argue he uses political connections to crush competition and keep cement artificially expensive, even as millions of Nigerians live in poverty. His $20 billion oil refinery, one of the largest in the world, is supposed to transform Nigeria's economy. Or it's just another way to consolidate more power. Time will tell. He's a philanthropist too, donating billions to causes across Africa. In 2025, he gave roughly $4 million to a presidential library. Generous, right? Not until you realize he's worth 7,625 times that amount. It's like someone with $100 donating a penny and expecting applause. The Panama Papers linked Dangote to offshore accounts hiding wealth from tax authorities. There are whispers that his business success isn't just hustle, it's decades of backroom deals with Nigerian presidents who conveniently granted him monopolies and favorable policies. Dangote was orphaned at 5 and started with a $500,000 loan from his uncle. His rags to riches story is genuinely impressive. But when your workers earn $2 a day while you fly private jets to business meetings, the lifting people from poverty narrative starts feeling hollow. Now let's talk about the world's richest homeless man. Nicolas Berggruen is worth $2.9 billion and spent years calling himself homeless. It's not the sleeping under a bridge kind of homeless, it's the flying between luxury hotels without owning property. In the early 2000s, he sold his mansions and possessions, claiming material things were meaningless. Was he moving to a monastery? No, he lived out of hotels carrying 2 suitcases and preaching philosophical minimalism. Then, in 2016, he bought a $63 million estate in Los Angeles. So much for detachment. Berggren's homeless phase was strategic. No permanent residence means no clear tax domicile, making it much harder for governments to track and tax your wealth. While living nowhere, he was quietly building a $3 billion art collection featuring Warhols and Basquiats, funding think tanks, and advising tech elites like Eric Schmidt. His Berggruen Institute hosts conferences where billionaires discuss philosophy and governance, as if solving the world's problems requires a private jet and a Picasso in the background. Some financial analysts suggest his nomadic lifestyle wasn't enlightenment, it was tax optimization disguised as wisdom. Leaked documents hint at shell companies funneling money through jurisdictions with no permanent address requirements. His father, Heinz Berggruen, was a Holocaust survivor who fled Nazi Germany and became an art dealer to Picasso. That legacy adds weight to Nicolas's philosopher king persona, but it also raises questions about how much of his idealism is genuine versus performance art for the ultra-wealthy. Berggruen funds secular monasteries where intellectuals retreat to think big thoughts. Meanwhile, most people can't afford to retreat from their rent payments. Homelessness for him was a choice. For millions, it's reality. Richest teenager. Johannes von Baumbach. While most 19-year-olds are still figuring out how to afford textbooks, Johannes von Baumbach is worth $5.4 billion. He's the youngest billionaire on Earth, inheriting a massive stake in Boehringer Ingelheim, the world's largest private pharmaceutical company. While his classmates stress over student loans, Johannes owns part of a company that makes drugs for chronic diseases like COPD and diabetes. Here's the uncomfortable part. Boehringer generates billions selling medications that patients often can't afford. Drugs like Spiriva and Pradaxa are essential for survival, but they come with price tags that bankrupt families. Meanwhile, Johannes is probably skiing in Austria, living a quiet life in the small German town of Ingelheim, completely disconnected from the people dependent on his family's products. The von Baumbach family has controlled Boehringer for over 130 years. They operate with almost zero public accountability because the company is privately held. No shareholders to answer to, no quarterly earnings calls, just a dynasty quietly profiting off illness while funding charities that conveniently distract from controversies over drug pricing and side effects. Some reports suggest the family strategically grooms heirs for board positions early, ensuring control stays within the bloodline. Johannes likely didn't choose this wealth. He was born into it, raised knowing he'd inherit an empire built on pills people need to stay alive. He keeps a low profile, no social media flexing, no public interviews. Maybe he's genuinely modest. Or maybe when you're worth billions before you can legally drink in the US, flaunting it feels tasteless even to you. Semion Mogilevich. The FBI calls him the most dangerous mobster in the world. Interpol has him on their most wanted list. Yet Semion Mogilevich walks free in Moscow, untouched, worth an estimated $10 billion. He's not hiding in a cave. He's living openly, because apparently when you're connected to the right people, international law is more of a suggestion. Mogilevich earned his nickname the Brainy Don by being smarter than every cop chasing him. He holds an economics degree and reportedly ran one of the most sophisticated criminal networks ever built. Arms trafficking, drug smuggling, prostitution rings across Europe, his organization did it all. But his most brilliant scam was completely legal, at least on paper. In the 1990s, Mogilevich created YBM Magnix, a fake magnet company headquartered near Philadelphia. It went public on the stock exchange, defrauding investors out of $150 million before the FBI figured out the whole thing was a front for money laundering. By then, Mogilevich had already disappeared with the cash. Former Russian spy Alexander Litvinenko claimed Mogilevich had deep ties to Putin's inner circle, using his networks to launder billions through state-owned companies like Gazprom. Litvinenko was poisoned with polonium shortly after making those allegations. Coincidence? Sure. Mogilevich also allegedly ran human trafficking operations throughout Eastern Europe, destroying countless lives while building his empire. The FBI has offered a $5 million bounty for information leading to his arrest. No one's collected it. He operates through an estimated 20,000 shell companies, making his wealth nearly impossible to trace. Born in Soviet Kiev to Jewish parents, Mogilevich started with small-time currency scams and became the boss of bosses. Now he's untouchable, protected by a system that profits from his existence. Remember, there's still $5 million for you if you can, well, you know what to do. Richest cult leader. Kenneth Copeland is worth $760 million. He's also a televangelist who preaches that God wants you to be rich, which is convenient considering he owns 3 private jets, a $7 million lakefront mansion, and an 18,000 square foot parsonage that's tax exempt as clergy housing. Apparently, Jesus needs a runway? Copeland's message is simple. Give me money and God will give you blessings. It's called prosperity gospel, and it's turned him into one of the wealthiest religious figures in America. His ministry pulls in hundreds of millions annually from followers who believe their donations will unlock divine financial rewards. Spoiler, the only person getting richer is Copeland. In 2020, Copeland went viral for blowing away Hurricane Irma on live television, literally blowing wind at a camera while commanding the storm to dissipate. It didn't work, but his followers still sent checks. He's also claimed to heal diseases through the TV screen, telling viewers to place their hands on the screen for a miracle. The FCC regulates this as religious programming, not medical fraud, so he's untouchable. The IRS has investigated Copeland multiple times for tax violations, but his church status shields him. Critics have leaked documents suggesting his ministry funnels money through offshore accounts, but nothing sticks. He has close ties to political figures, including appearances at Trump rallies, blending religion with influence. Copeland's father was a World War II veteran. Kenneth became a pilot, then a preacher, building an empire on the desperation of people hoping faith could fix their financial problems. Many of his followers have gone bankrupt tithing their life savings, while Copeland flies above them at 40,000 feet. Richest fugitive. Legendary fugitive Jho Low threw parties with Leonardo DiCaprio, bought a $250 million yacht, and financed the Wolf of Wall Street using stolen money. The irony of funding a movie about financial fraud with actual financial fraud is almost poetic. Low masterminded the 1MDB scandal, stealing $4.5 billion from a Malaysian government investment fund meant for economic development. Instead of infrastructure, the money bought penthouses, artwork, and celebrity friendships. He gifted Miranda Kerr a $4 million diamond necklace for her birthday. He bankrolled Hollywood films. He partied in Las Vegas with models and magnums of champagne that cost more than cars. While Low lived like a Bond villain, Malaysia's economy suffered. The scandal brought down Prime Minister Najib Razak, who's now serving 12 years in prison. Goldman Sachs paid nearly $3 billion in fines for their role in helping raise the money Low stole. Meanwhile, Low vanished. He's believed to be hiding in China, protected by connections and fake passports. In 2024, Cyprus revoked his citizenship after investigations revealed he bought it using forged documents and laundered money. The U.S. Department of Justice has seized over $900 million in assets tied to him, but estimates suggest he still has $1.5 billion hidden in offshore accounts and shell companies. Low was a Wharton graduate, a financial prodigy who could have done anything legitimate. Instead, he chose to rob an entire country and flee. His family remains silent, likely ashamed or complicit. At 42, he's still a fugitive, living in shadows, unable to ever show his face publicly again. His yacht has been seized, his mansion sold, his empire dismantled. But somewhere, he's still free. If you can find him, there'll be something for you. Richest lawyer. The top 1% of lawyers make more money than the rest combined, even though they all tell the same lies. This is particularly true when you look at the world's richest lawyer, Jerry Reinsdorf. Jerry Reinsdorf is worth $2.1 billion. He's not famous for winning court cases. He's famous for owning the Chicago Bulls and the Chicago White Sox. But before he bought sports teams, Reinsdorf was a tax attorney who mastered the art of exploiting loopholes. He turned that skill into an empire. Reinsdorf bought the Bulls in 1985 for $16 million. Today, the team is worth over $5 billion. Most of that value came from the Michael Jordan era, 6 championships that turned Chicago into a basketball dynasty. Then in 1998, Reinsdorf broke it all apart. He refused to pay Phil Jackson and let Jordan walk away. Fans were furious. The greatest team in NBA history dismantled because Reinsdorf wouldn't spend money. He pulled similar moves in baseball. In 1994, Reinsdorf was one of the owners who pushed for a salary cap, leading to a player strike that canceled the World Series for the first time in 90 years. Fans lost an entire season because billionaires and millionaires couldn't agree on how to split revenue. Reinsdorf also convinced taxpayers to fund a new White Sox stadium in the 1980s, threatening to move the team if the city didn't pay. Chicago built him a $167 million stadium using public money. He pocketed the profits. Reinsdorf grew up in Brooklyn watching Jackie Robinson break the color barrier. That experience supposedly shaped his love for sports. But when it came to business, sentiment didn't matter. Reinsdorf the lawyer always won. How about Reinsdorf the fan? He lost Chicago's heart forever. Richest corn star. Isn't it kind of biased that this list is male-dominated? That's misogynistic, right? So I thought, but there's a woman and a rather sensational outlier. Ladies and gentlemen, Sunny Leone. Sunny Leone is worth $14 million. She's also one of the most Googled women in India, which is impressive, considering her career started in adult films in California before transitioning to Bollywood. Her journey from pornography to mainstream Indian cinema is either the greatest redemption arc ever or the most calculated rebranding in entertainment history. Sunny was born in Canada and moved to California at 13, attending Catholic school to escape bullying. The irony writes itself. By 2001, she was Playboy's Cyber Girl of the Year. A decade later, she appeared on India's reality show Big Boss, instantly becoming one of the country's most controversial celebrities. Religious groups sent death threats. Religious leaders demanded she be deported. And yet, her popularity exploded. Now here's where it gets amusingly interesting. Some industry insiders suggest her Big Boss appearance wasn't accidental. Producers allegedly recruited her specifically because her adult film background would guarantee ratings and controversy. It worked. She became a household name overnight, parlaying that fame into Bollywood films, earning her $2 to $3 million per role. Leone lost both parents by 2010, her mother in 2008 and father 2 years later. She's spoken openly about feeling objectified throughout her career, but refusing to let that define her. She's now married with 3 children through IVF, running multiple businesses, including a perfume line and production company. Her success challenges every traditional narrative about what women in her former industry can become. But it also raises questions about exploitation. Did Bollywood elevate her, or did it profit off her past while keeping her typecast? Either way, she turned controversy into currency better than almost anyone. And if you'd ask me, I'd say that's genius. If you've watched up to this, then it means you'll like a video I made earlier, which is the part 1 of this series. It's even way more controversial than this. Click on this video and you'll thank me later. Stay rich.